What's good, YouTube? Welcome back. Thank you for clicking onto this reaction. I hope you're looking forward to it just as much as I am. If you haven't already, head over to the content creators page. That link is in the description box down below. If you haven't already and you're enjoying our content, you know what you need to do. You need to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, but we're going to jump straight into this one.
A large formation of B-29 Superfortress and B-24 Liberator heavy bombers fly high above the Pacific Ocean on the 8th of December 1944. The heavies approach the next objective in America's island-hopping campaign towards Imperial Japan. Superfortresses and Liberators drop thousands of tons of munitions, cratering the dark volcanic landscape. Their target, an island with black sand that one aviator comments looks like a burnt pork chop in the middle of the ocean, offers only light anti-aircraft fire from its defenders.
It's absolutely insane. Look at how many freaking planes there are going over this island.
This raid is just the first.
Like, do you think if you was actually on the island and you looked up, you'd be able to see anything other than a plane?
Of 74 consecutive bombing missions against the small island, which has an area of only 8 square miles. In 3 months' time, this island will become the setting for one of the most ferocious battles of the Second World War. Its name is Iwo Jima. 2 months earlier, the military might of the United States begins to wear down the Japanese defense of the Philippines. With victory imminent, Admiral Chester Nimitz starts to turn his attention to Iwo Jima. The small volcanic island has 2 airfields and lies directly in the path of the American strategic bombing campaign against the Japanese mainland. Japanese fighters from Iwo Jima harass B-29 formations, and bombers based there have been raiding newly conquered islands to the east.
Okay.
Admiral Nimitz wants to eliminate this threat once and for all, before the impending invasion of Okinawa.
Which you sort of understand why if it's harassing them, it's a key point.
On the 9th of November, Nimitz informs Lieutenant General Holland Smith, commander of the Fleet Marine Force, that he will command Operation Detachment, the storming of Iwo Jima. Once he has been briefed on detachment, Nimitz remarks, "Well, this will be easy. The Japanese will surrender Iwo Jima without a fight."
How goddamn mistaken was he? Yeah, they'll surrender it without a fight. No, every single little island that they have, they will not give up an inch unless you take it for them. You're an absolute fool. You're an absolute idiot.
Storming the small volcanic island seems like a simple proposition. There is no fresh water, and reconnaissance flights notice there are no buildings for housing soldiers on the black landscape.
That's because it's all in the mountainsides, right? And it's all like bunkers, so of course you're not going to see anything.
It's believed there are only 12,000 weakened Japanese troops defending the island. Nimitz is confident they will be overcome in a matter of days. On the 15th of February 1945, an armada of over 600 warships and transports depart the Marianas Islands carrying 3 divisions of 70,000 Marines en route to Iwo Jima. The Marines have been told they are heading to Island X. The 70-mile-long American fleet will arrive off the shores of Iwo Jima
70 miles long?
The following day.
Right?
In fact, the Japanese have no intention of letting the island fall to the Americans without a fight.
They're not going to let anything fall without a fight.
Iwo Jima is part of the Tokyo Prefecture, and thus part of Japan itself, so it must be defended to the last man. To see this mission through, Lieutenant General Tadamichi Kuribayashi is dispatched to Iwo Jima with the 109th Infantry Division. Before he left, Kuribayashi was given a personal audience with Emperor Hirohito, who impressed upon the general the importance of his task.
He can't give up now. If he's like being ordered by the Emperor, he has to stay.
Kuribayashi understands that he has been given a deadly mission, but he intends to inflict as many casualties on the Americans as possible. He has set about turning Iwo Jima into a fortress. American planners significantly underestimate Japanese strength on the island. Kuribayashi has 22,000 men, rather than the estimated 12,000. The defenders have tunneled into the island throughout the winter, awaiting the coming onslaught from fortified bunkers and blockhouses. Arriving on the 16th after their long voyage from the Marianas Islands.
Look at how many ships there are! Look at it!
The US Navy sets about softening up the island defences with a massive naval bombardment. The barrage by Navy warships will attempt to destroy and degrade defensive fortifications before the 3rd, 4th and 5th Marine Divisions storm the island on February 19th. There are 700...
imagine sitting in a bunker and just bombs are continuously going off and you just got to hope it's not going to fuck you up.
24
Scary.
priority targets marked for destruction by 6 battleships, 4 heavy cruisers and 1 light cruiser, along with dozens of destroyers. Among them are the battleships Nevada and Tennessee, survivors of the attack on Pearl Harbor which brought the United States into the war, who rained 14-inch shells on Iwo Jima. Despite the display of firepower, the Japanese defenders fire back with 120mm guns whenever an American ship strays too close to the shore.
Do they hit any though?
2 days before the landing, Tennessee and the cruiser Pensacola are hit by enemy fire, killing or wounding 115 aboard the Pensacola. Meanwhile, over 120 fighter bombers from fleet and escort carriers carry out 612 sorties, attacking any
612 sorties, and that is just it's just more bombing from planes. Like, oh my god, actual like modern warfare is so crazy. Like the amount of damage that nations can do, and just the amount of damage our weapons can do nowadays is terrifying. Could you imagine just being on an island surrounded by an enemy naval force and it just continuously being bombed by ships and by planes? Like you just gotta deal with it. Like that would be terrifying.
Targets of opportunity.
Like,
however,
what would be going through your head? How would you survive? How are you going to be able to survive this? How long is it going to go on for?
10-day bombardment requested by General Smith is cut down to just 3. Smith is furious after being told that the Navy is reluctant to expend more munitions than necessary, with naval intelligence officers believing the island defences have already been neutralised by the 74 days of heavy bombing.
Wait, sorry? Was that 74 days?
Have already been neutralised by the 74 days of heavy bombing.
So they had to deal with 74 days of being bombed. You can't go for a shit in peace. Like, imagine for 74 days you got to worry that every time you go out for a piss or a shit that you might just fucking get hit with shrapnel. Like crazy. You could barely eat. You're not going to be able to sleep. 74 days. I can't do 5. Let alone 74.
To make matters worse, poor weather hampers the bombardment by preventing reconnaissance aircraft from relaying accurate target coordinates to the warships. By D-Day, the Navy has provided a mere 1.5 days of heavy bombardment, despite promising 3. It will prove to be a cost.
Wait, what?
Coordinates to the warships. By D-Day, the Navy has provided a mere 1.5 days of heavy bombardment.
Wait, so it said 74 and now it's saying 1.5 days. Was I just confused? Am I being an absolute melt? Am I just being an idiot?
It will prove to be a costly mistake. At dawn on the 19th of February 1945, the first Marine vessels begin loading men and supplies for the trip to the beach, while the final bombardment intensifies. The first wave will be spearheaded by the 482 amphibious tractors the Marines simply call Amtraks, which can sail through the water like a boat, and then drive up onto the beach, providing fire support with a 75mm gun, along with 2 50 caliber machine guns.
Which does nothing.
Because of Iwo Jima's geography, there is only one beach which can accommodate the landing. It is directly under Mount Suribachi, an extinct volcano at the southern tip of the island. One of the first objectives on D-Day is to isolate the heavily fortified mountain before capturing it. The 28th Regiment of the 5th Marine Division is given the task of dashing across Iwo Jima and cutting off Mount Suribachi.
It's just not going to go well though.
In the centre, the Marines' objective is to capture Iwo Jima's southern airfield by the end of the first day. To the north, the 25th Regiment must clear out a rock quarry which holds a commanding view of the northern landing beaches. The Marines have been served a gourmet D-Day breakfast of steak and eggs before boarding their landing craft.
I mean, you've got to have something decent before like an event like this. So I mean, steak and eggs is little compared to what these boys deserve.
To many men, the Black Island on the horizon gives them a foreboding sense of impending doom. Corpsman Vernon Parrish in the 28th Regiment recalled, "I was petrified when we got into those Amtraks. I was new to battle, but I could sense that even the veterans were scared." Once fully loaded, the landing craft set out for the beach, while their naval gunfire and aerial bombardment of Iwo Jima intensifies. 9 Landing Craft Infantry, or LCI, rocket ships move into position and launch 9,500 5-inch spin-stabilized rockets towards the island, while
9,500!
the bombardment ships move to within 2,500 yards of the shoreline. They have been reinforced with the 16-inch
Look at it! It's just non-stop barrages!
guns of the newer battleships Washington and North Carolina, who add to the hail of fire. The naval bombardment briefly lifts to allow the aircraft from the carrier force to pound the island with napalm and conventional bombs one last time. Watching the incredible display of firepower from an approaching Amtrak, an incredulous Marine asks his comrades, "Do you think there will be any Japanese left for us?" The bombardment...
So sad that they don't realise, yes there will be, because they are just dug in deep. So these bombs aren't doing... They're doing a lot to the infrastructure, but there's a lot of hidden buildings, aren't there?
lifts just before the first Amtraks hit the shoreline. The first Marine Amtrak lands at 8:59 AM, 1 minute ahead of schedule. The initial waves do not come under fire. The Marines wonder if the preliminary bombardment actually did wipe out the Japanese garrison, and signal the rest of the landing craft to come ashore. In fact, this plays directly into Kuribayashi.
I was about to say, I bet they were waiting for as many men to be in open field as possible.
Battle plan. The Japanese commander intends to let the landing beach fill up with vehicles and men before unleashing his carefully hidden firepower. The landing continues unopposed, while concealed Japanese gun emplacements wait for the order to open up with everything they have. At 9:45 AM, Easy Company of the 3rd Battalion of the 28th Marine Regiment comes ashore under the shadow of Mount Suribachi. Led by Captain Dave Severance, they
I'm really liking the troops and maps that the operation room's doing here. It's a really, really good video. I'm thoroughly enjoying this.
fan out to support the advance inland. Shortly after Easy Company arrives on the beach, Kuribayashi is satisfied that his killing zone is full of Americans and gives the order to open fire. Lieutenant Keith Wells of the...
Imagine being on the beach thinking that you have no opposition, seeing all your other comrades on there, you look into your left and right, and then all of a sudden they just open fire and just you start getting dropped. Like, that's terrifying. That's terrifying.
3rd Platoon in Easy looks up to see Suribachi turned into what looks like a Christmas tree with blinking lights. A hurricane of artillery and machine gun fire lands on the congested invasion beach. The first few minutes under fire are chaotic. The Japanese have constructed over 750 defensive emplacements since the beginning of 1943. Most of these strongpoints are connected by 17 miles of underground tunnels, allowing the defenders to move from position to position without exposing themselves to enemy fire.
So creative. 17 miles of like underground tunnels. Holy shit.
Some artillery emplacements have been concealed and fitted with steel doors that can be closed when the gun crew needs to reload, minimizing the chance of American counterfire hitting their targets.
Nice. Okay.
These concealed gun positions cause massive casualties on the invasion beach, where there is no cover for the Marines. Joe Rosenthal is an Associated Press photographer who lands with the first wave. He later
He landed with the first wave and survived. Did he actually survive? That's absolutely crazy.
recalls that avoiding getting hit during the initial bombardment was like running through rain and not getting wet.
Yeah, I also agree with what Light said, Reese. Why put massive cannons on your ships when a precision strike from a guided missile can do the better and cheaper? Makes complete sense.
To make matters worse, naval planners have assumed from reconnaissance photos that the invasion beach is flat and will be easy to clear. Instead, the Marines find themselves facing 15-foot high sand embankments impossible for vehicles to climb. With tanks and other tracked vehicles bogging down in the fine volcanic sand, the Marines must continue forward on foot without armoured support. Engineers, better known as the Seabees, are dispatched to clear paths through the embankments with tractors. Japanese artillery fire zeroes in on the Seabees, and despite taking heavy casualties, the civilians perform courageously and manage to clear causeways for the tracked vehicles to move through.
Well played to those
Despite
civilians.
the heavy enemy fire, Able Company of the 28th Marine Regiment have made a dangerous charge across the southern neck of the island. At 10:35 am, they reach the western shore of Iwo Jima, successfully cutting off Mount Suribachi.
Those boys really did start moving. But to get there at 10:30
reinforced
am.
by Sherman tanks of the 4th Tank Battalion, who seal the ring around the extinct volcano. Easy Company moves quickly to reinforce the breakthrough. In the centre, the 27th Marine Regiment is being decimated by machine gun fire from concealed bunkers ahead of them. Charlie Company of the 1st Battalion is pinned down short of the airfield, when Gunnery Sergeant John Basilone makes a break for the nearest bunker. Manila John Basilone is a Marine Corps legend, having been awarded the Medal of Honor during the Guadalcanal campaign.
And what's he do this time
After being recalled from active service to sell war bonds on a publicity tour, Basilone has requested to return to the front. He intends to make the most of his opportunity.
Okay,
Basilone has sprinted from the cover of a sand embankment through heavy enemy fire and flanks around the side of the bunker. He tosses a satchel charge through the firing port, followed by grenades to neutralise the Japanese strongpoint. With the machine gun
holy shit, go on boy,
out of action, the rest of the Marines move up to the airfield. Basilone spots a Sherman tank that has made it off the beach but is stuck in a minefield under heavy enemy fire. He runs to the tank and attempts to guide it.
Is a fucking tank himself
out of the minefield. Despite artillery and mortar shells falling around him, he successfully leads the tank to safety and returns to his men still pinned down on the edge of the airfield.
Oh my god, this man is a fucking Chad and a top G.
Basilone gathers his men and shouts, "Come on you guys, we gotta get these guns off the beach." He and his men charge across the airfield to attack an enemy strongpoint. As he sprints across the open ground, John Basilone is cut down by machine gun fire and is killed instantly. He will be posthumously awarded the Navy Cross, becoming the only Marine to receive the United States' 2 highest awards for gallantry.
Damn straight he did. What a good soldier, and rest in peace to that fallen soldier. Oh, I forgot about the submarines.
Word
of course,
that John got
like
it makes its way through the ranks, as shaken soldiers realise that Iwo Jima is no ordinary battle. On the northernmost landing beach, 3rd Battalion of the 25th Marine Regiment is taking horrendous losses from the rock quarry. The first Japanese artillery barrage killed every man in the shore fire control party, meaning Lieutenant Colonel Justice Chambers cannot direct naval gunfire against dug-in Japanese positions. His men are forced to scale the sheer cliffs of the quarry without any supporting artillery. They somehow manage to clear the first terrace, only to run into a wall of fire from cave entrances blasted into the side of the quarry. The Japanese troops are using 320mm spigot mortars on the Marines stuck in the quarry, a weapon the
Imagine you're going through a quarry and just getting peppered with fucking bullets. This type of war was horrible, horrific.
Have not encountered in large numbers before. The mortars fire 600-pound rocket bombs that explode and create massive 8-foot craters in the ground. The Marines watch as the massive projectiles arch through the air toward their positions. The mortar rounds will be nicknamed Flying Ash Cans. The attack comes to a halt as men desperately search for cover. Lieutenant Colonel Chambers radios to General Holland that his men are catching all hell from the quarry and need support as soon as possible, but to no avail. The warship
They don't even get the support they need.
Cannot support the Marines without accurate coordinates, and their suffering will continue throughout D-Day. Of the 900
How much suffering did those poor men have to go through?
men who landed on the beach with 3rd Battalion in the morning, only 150 are left by 2 p.m.
Only 150 were left out of 900. Brutal.
Mercifully, The battle winds down as night falls over Iwo Jima. The invasion beach is a scene of devastation, with burning vehicles littering the shoreline. There are too many wounded men to evacuate all at once, and hundreds will continue to suffer through the night. The forward Marine positions dig in, and are met with an eerie and uneasy silence. General Kuribayashi has expressly forbidden banzai charges. He wants his men to stay alive as long as possible to inflict maximum harm on the invaders.
That's a change in tactics by the Japanese.
His plan for an attritional battle has already seen results. At the end of D-Day, the Marines have suffered 2,420 casualties, including 548 killed in action. This number represents over half of the total casualties taken during the entire 6-month-long Guadalcanal campaign.
It represents half of the 6-month-long campaign within the Carnal.
At the White House, President Roosevelt openly gasps in horror at a casualty list for the first time in the war.
Yeah, I bet he opened that casualty list and was like, oh my god, how many men have we just lost? How many American men have we lost for this target? Was it worth it?
Day breaks on D+1 to reveal cold rain and gusty winds. The remnants of the 3rd Battalion of the 25th Marines at the Rock Quarry have been reinforced by 1st Battalion of the 24th Marine Regiment. The attack begins anew at 8:30 am, this time with concentrated fire support from the 16-inch guns of the battleship USS Washington.
So I'm assuming they got decent coordinates now.
A landslide is triggered by the shelling, which buries multiple Japanese emplacements under an avalanche of rock and sand.
It kills how many soldiers?
Unlike the previous day, both Marine battalions make steady progress as they advance under cover from Washington's main batteries. Meanwhile, the 3,000 men of the 28th Marine Regiment under the command of Colonel Harry Liversidge prepare to clear the base of Mount Suribachi. American destroyers and artillery half-tracks blast the mountain before the attack, but the shelling has little impact on the defenders, who patiently await the Marines from their tunnels and caves. At 8:30 am, Colonel Liversidge gives the order to attack, and the 28th Marines advance towards the imposing mountain.
How many men do they lose for
The
this,
assault
though?
quickly bogs down. By 9 am they have only made 75 yards, and Liversidge orders reinforcements into the battle. Easy Company of the 3rd Battalion moves to the front to support the attack. Once at the mountain base, Easy comes under Japanese fire.
Imagine being given these orders. You're literally having to go after one fortified position and then literally root every single person out of that fortified position before you can then move on to the next position. Literally probably moving meters by day, and that's it sometimes.
Leader of 2nd Platoon, Lieutenant Ed Pennell, spots 5 wounded men pinned down by enemy machine gun fire. Pennell sprints back to a column of Sherman tanks just behind the line. He grabs the phone on the side of the lead Sherman and convinces the tank crew to follow him back to the wounded men. The tank provides covering fire at the base of the mountain, while Pennell, along with Mike Strank, Harlon Block, Ira Hayes and Franklin Sousley, take turns carrying the wounded men back to safety.
Well played to those
For
boys.
his actions, Pennell will be awarded the Navy Cross. However,
and he deserves
the
it.
Marines will only be able to advance another 100 yards up Mount Suribachi before nightfall.
There you go. See what I mean? They got 100 yards. That's all they got out of this one.
In the north, the men of the 1st Battalion of the 24th Marines are finally advancing in the quarry after hard fighting throughout the day. But just as they are about to break through the final cliffside, a friendly Corsair targets them by accident, and 11 men are killed by machine gun fire. After the fighter flies off, a sergeant shouts to his men, "Holy hell, how did that happen, and are any of you still alive?" Almost immediately, a naval gunfire salvo from an unidentified ship lands among the men seeking cover against the quarry walls.
Wait, so how many was it? 12 or 11 of these men got killed in a strike.
And are any of you still alive?
That's absolutely crazy. And is this a friendly bombardment?
Almost immediately, a naval gunfire salvo from an unidentified ship lands among the men seeking cover against the quarry walls.
So it was against the American troops. Holy shit, they
The
got
two unlucky
bombarded as
mistakes
well.
proved devastating for the Marines. 1st Battalion loses 101 men in a matter of minutes and can no longer carry on with their assault.
Oh no! That's fucking shit. Shit. That's not little mistakes. They're two humongous mistakes. 101 lives have been fucking lost due to those two mistakes, and they're not going to be able to do anything else. They're going to have to stop their pursuit for this objective at the moment.
As D+1 draws to a close, the Americans have secured a quarter of Iwo Jima at great cost. The landing beach is still under enemy fire from Mount Suribachi, adding to the misery for the rows of wounded men stranded on the island. However, there has been tangible progress. The southern airfield is now in American hands, with their relatively swift advance surprising General Kuribayashi.
Okay.
Furthermore, the Marine infantry has gained a tenuous foothold at the rock quarry. But most important,
they might have hold of these things, but the problem with it is if you've got the enemy forces still entrapped and encircled the areas that you've got control of, and they're still there causing issues, then is it really worth having those objectives at this point in time?
the 28th Marines are in a position to begin their final assault on Mount Suribachi the following day. Colonel Liversidge will ask for every bomber and heavy gun in the fleet to pound the extinct volcano before his men attack. This week on our new sister channel, and
I assume we're going to find out what happens in the next episode. What a great reaction. I am thoroughly enjoying this. So glad that I started it up. And we'll jump into the next one, I think.